Hiya, it's your pal John Lees again, and I've not got to the comic shop this week because I've been busy and the weather's not been too great. So I've been kind of going back and reading over some older stuff. And the thing I've been reading this week has been Uzumaki by Junji Ito, and it's just been fascinating kind of digging back into this again. I mean, I've talked about before what a big deal the work of Junji Ito is, and how I think he's maybe like the master of comics horror. And I know when I was doing like the publicity for an Emily Was Gone, or I was actually talking about Emily Was Gone again in a podcast just last week, and one of the most common questions I tend to get is what were the influences for an Emily Was Gone? And the things that me, Andy, Ian Laurie, when he's been asked, that we can kind of rattle off, tends to be cinematic references, like Mulholland Drive or um, Kill List or The Wicker Man. Or John Carpenter's In the Mouth of Madness was another one that mentioned, or like TV, like Twin Peaks is the obvious kind of touchstone. But in terms of comics, if I were to talk about like what kind of comics have influenced me and my approach to horror, absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, the person that would come to mind for me would be the work of Junji Ito, and particularly Uzumaki, which was the first work of Ito's that I read, and is probably still the best. It's just like a masterclass in how to kind of build suspense, and probably the best thing to do would be to show you the book, because just to talk about the book doesn't really kind of convey how scary it is, because like I've said this before, the book is about a town that's haunted by spirals. And you say that and people can look at you blankly like, what the shape? But in practice it's really terrifying. So I want to see if I can switch the kind of thing around here. Does that work? Right. Um so yeah, here's this lovely new edition, because this is actually a new edition that I've got quite recently. I originally had it in kind of flimsy older volumes, but it's just a stunning book. It's still hard to get used to the kind of backwards reading of manga. I want to try reading more manga actually, because there's a whole like world of comics that I feel like I've not really jumped into properly, and there's so much of it that has such a big fan following. I've been curious about checking more of it out. But I just love Junji Ito's faces, even in the kind of like more kind of calmed down bit at the start of the story here. Everyone just has that kind of manic quality about him. I think few creators kind of can convey a sense of hysteria quite like Junji Ito can. I'm not sure if you can see like these eyes here. I mean, I think that's something that Ian Laurie does really well too. Those kind of intense, sweaty close-ups and that kind of like enhanced, like raised emotional level. Um, and I'm just trying to get to this big scene. One of the things that Junji Ito does really well is he's great at crafting horrific images, but not just that. Like he has a sense of build up to those images. We know something's coming that's awful because you know the kind of stuff that Junji Ito draws, but you're waiting for it to come. So here's a classic example. The main character's dad's just died, and he's talking about the story behind his dad's death. It all ties into this mysterious box that was delivered to their house. So like the dad disappears and they find this box sitting in his old work office, so they can go to it, and we get closer and closer to the box, and we're building up and building up to this box being opened, and then they finally open it, and you have the page turn reveal of like the dad has like turned himself into a spiral in this box, and like it's just that kind of highly rendered style that does, like with that really intense line work. I think it's just it really kind of brings out the horror of a scene, because it almost feels three dimensional and textured. I mean, even look at that foot there; it just looks like you could, it's got depth on the page. Um, and like I think something else to try and on. I think I'll give a chance to show you one of the really hot images in the book, where when they cremate the dad at the funeral service, and the ashes turn into this big spiral, which then turns into, for a moment, the father's screaming face in the sky. Um, and this is one of those like images that really haunted me for years after I read the book, and it stuck with me. It's such a powerful image. Yeah, I want to try and find something else to kind of demonstrate the effect of the book. Because the book's kind of episodic. Here we go. One of the things that And not just in horror, but like any good comics creator, this is just like this is a bit of a process tip. You'll really know that you're doing your job well if through a series of still images you can start to convey a sense of time. Now, to try and explain that a little bit, obviously the reader has total. I've gone all shadowy. Obviously, the reader has total control over the pace that they read the book. They can like skim through, or they can take their time in each individual page. And you as the author don't really know what speed they're going to read it at. But one second, I seem to have gone. There we go. Is that brighter? You as an author don't know what speed the book's going to be read at, but if you really do your job well, you can control the pace and create a sense of time and make a moment like last like the length of time you want it to, and you can drag a single few seconds out and out and out to enhance the tension, and that's something that Junji does really well. I mean, you look at this scene here, this girl who has had this spiral-shaped scar on her head that's been growing and growing, and her friend's worried about her and kind of finds her walking out in the streets. And then like you just look at these three panels here, this kind of slow turn. And I think that's just that way, like this would be a single moment if it was like a film or TV, but like the comic actually manages to create a sense of slow motion on the page, which I think is really powerful. Then you have like the emotional like enhancement building up. Then you have the build up and build up what's going to be underneath her hat. Then you have like again the page turn reveal, which is and then you have like this bit here where the eyeball kind of just pops out and like rolls down the big crevice and gets sucked into her head. And this is something that I didn't realise until I was like going back to the book many years after I first read it, that in a perverse way, like it's actually kind of funny, which goes back to the argument I've talked about for years. Like I call it the Texas Chainsaw Massacre argument, based on the end of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where like sometimes the scariest stuff is just 1 degree off of being hilarious. Like it's so awful that like the only sane response is to kind of laugh. And I think that's because like comedy and horror both work in a kind of like enhanced emotional plane where things don't act the way they normally would. So we're kind of used to like fear, like being afraid, and then like laughter kind of are almost like a linked emotional response, which is why sometimes when you get a fright, the first thing you do after you've had a fright is you laugh. It's like an adrenaline thing. So I think that's why sometimes like the scariest stuff is funny, and sometimes actually the funniest stuff is quite scary too, to kind of flip it around both ways. But yeah, I could keep on scanning through the book, but hopefully this is giving you an idea. Actually, I'll show you one more image to show you how awesome this book is. If this doesn't convince you, then I don't know what will. It's just a horrific book. Here we go, the snail. Where this kid turns into a snail creature and kind of increasingly turns like more and more into like a snail as the story goes on. Look at this. Is that not just the stuff of nightmares? So yeah, like whether in the UK or the US, you should be able to find this edition of Uzumaki on Amazon. And like if you at all like horror, or like if you like the stuff that me and Ian have done, like Getting Where It Was Gone, that kind of weird stuff, and you want what kind of where else can I find that? Uzumaki gets my highest recommendation. It's just a fantastic book. It was a hugely influential book for me, and I think that any kind of list, especially once Halloween season's coming up, any list of like the best horror comics or the greatest horror comics ever, which doesn't include Uzumaki, is hopelessly incomplete. So if you want to be cooler than them and smarter than them, more informed than those folk, then absolutely pick up Uzumaki by Junji. Highest recommendation from here.